So let's kick it off with the coaching hires. There were a few different coaching hires in the past week. The Jags have hired Urban Meyer. The Jets have hired Robert Saleh, and I believe the Lions hired Dan Campbell. I'm not too familiar with Dan Campbell, but we can go into the other two. Let's kick it off with Urban Meyer. How do you feel about the Urban Meyer signing?
I feel like for Urban Meyer, this was like the most ideal spot for him to start coaching in the NFL. The Jags are a team that has a lot of cap space. Are projected to have 73 million, which is the most cap space going into the offseason. They have two first round picks, the first overall pick and the 25th pick. So it'll be interesting what they'll do. I'm assuming they'll get Trevor Lawrence with the first pick. There is some strange speculation that that he might draft Justin Fields over Lawrence, but Lawrence is a much more polished player and would fit right more into his system of things. So it should be interesting to see how he'll do as the head coach for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I've heard about the Justin Fields speculation as well. I don't buy it. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is he's going to be sensational. You don't pass up on a generational talent like Trevor Lawrence. Um, yeah, I'm rooting for Urban Meyer, but he has a lot going against him. I mean, college coaches, they rarely succeed in the NFL, if we're being honest. Um, there's only a couple I can really think of off the top of my head that have actually really succeeded in the NFL. Uh, Urban Meyer has a lot of health issues. He left his last job due to them. I could see him leaving for health related reasons 2 or 3 years in again. Um, but I like him as a person. I am rooting for him. I want him to do good on the Jags. I think the Jags have a lot of potential. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he's going to change that franchise. And like you said, they have so much cap space. They can go out and get a bunch of free agents, kind of like the Dolphins did, the Dolphins offseason and
Mm-hmm.
last year. They had a very solid offseason, built their team very well, got Tua, and they played very well this season, almost made the playoffs. So I could see the Jags kind of following in that general trend, but obviously they need a lot more help on defense than the Dolphins did last year. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see where that goes.
They have a lot of young talent, though. Knowing the thought that James Robinson was going to be as good as he was, they still have DJ Chark in the receiver position, and so is the other wide receiver from Colorado University. I mean, they also have some, not as many, but few ballers on the defensive side that are also fairly young, such as C.J. Henderson, Josh Allen, and then Miles Jack. So I mean, there is some building blocks for that team, but Urban Meyer, he's a great coach, but we'll have to see. I was kind of gonna go off what you were saying earlier, talking about how college coaches don't really succeed. Honestly, it's a coin toss. It's a 50-50 thing because you can get a coach just like Jim Harbaugh with the 49ers. He ended up doing fairly well. 44 wins as a head coach and only 19 losses in a Super Bowl appearance. And then also there was Pete Carroll from when he used to coach at USC and then jumped over to the NFL. You know, those two are like the ceiling of where it can go. But then there's times like Chip Kelly, which that experiment did not work very well for the Eagles. Nick Saban is also a head coach for the Miami Dolphins way back when in 1998 to 2006. And he was fairly mediocre. He had 65 wins and 63 losses as a head coach. And then currently right now, Cliff Kingsbury, who is not a very good coach over at Texas Tech, is currently the head coach of the Cardinals, and they have a losing record under him as his stint there. So it is really a coin toss. I really don't know where it can go, but I want to have a lot of hope at Urban Meyer. I mean, the dude was a really good coach over at Ohio State, so we'll have to see how this goes.
Yeah, and onto going back to the Cliff Kingsbury point. Yeah, it could be argued that he was kind of the reason they didn't even make the playoffs this year. Like his coaching decisions down the stretch were just not great, really not great. Let's jump to the Jets hire of Robert Saleh. I think this is a fantastic hire for the Jets. Not just from like a scheme perspective, because obviously they do need defense, and Robert Saleh was the former Niners defensive coordinator, so he knows what he's doing on defense. But, not just from a scheme perspective, just from a personality and from a culture perspective, like, he's really gonna change things over, in the Jets organization, in my opinion. I mean, I haven't heard a single bad thing about Saleh at all since he's been in the NFL. And he listens to his players a lot. That's been reported. He really listens and takes time to respond to them. I think that could work really, really well for the Jets, especially because they have a lot of young guys. Um, but yeah, I think this is a fantastic hire for the Jets.
Yeah, I think it was a really good pickup for the Jets. I was actually surprised how well a pickup it was, seeing as they hired Adam Gase a couple of years ago. You would think that this team didn't know what they were doing, but it was surprisingly a really good hire, and I really like the fact that he took the quarterback coach from the 49ers, Mike LaFleur, who's the brother of Matt LaFleur, over as his offensive coordinator for the Jets. And 49ers offense was pretty solid. Well, in previous years was pretty solid. So this is definitely a move in the right direction for the team. Like you said, he's a very well respected coordinator, and a lot of people. There's not really many things negatively said about the guy. I mean, he took this 49ers defense who dealt with a lot of injuries and a lot of the COVID issues, and they still end up being a top 5 defense this year. So it was really surprising, and I mean, it just goes to show how disciplined and how that this team could really, use this kind of personnel and this kind of like leadership, because this team does need a culture change if they really do seek any success in the future.
Yeah, totally agree. My question is, do they keep Sam Darnold now, or do they maybe pivot to drafting a Justin Fields now and starting over?
Yeah, that was an interesting thing because I don't know how they will work with Sam Darnold. I mean, Sam Darnold, for me, I feel like I can see him getting traded this offseason. But at the same time, if they do end up keeping him, I don't think it will be for very long. I mean, Sam Darnold, I'm not going to say he's a bad QB because seeing in his situation, it's really hard to make much of it. But at the same time, I feel like he hasn't done enough to make me believe that if he was somewhere else, like he'll be amazing. So we'll have to see. I mean, this offseason is going to be very interesting for them because just like I was saying earlier with the Jaguars, this team also is in a good position as they have the second most cap space going into the offseason. And then they also have the second overall pick, and then the 23rd overall pick, and then they also have another third rounder that they got from the Jamal Adams trade as well. So this team's in the right direction if they really want to go on the uptick and just go forward. But it's going to be hard because the AFC East is not what they used to be. The Bills seem like they're going to stay up top of that division. The Dolphins made a surprising jump this past season. The Patriots, they might get a lot of their players back after they opted out this past season. So it's going to be a lot for the Jets to really go in the right direction, but it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, in my opinion, I really think that either they give Darnold one more year just to see what Saleh can do with him, or they straight up just trade him or cut him. They resetting the rookie clock on your quarterback is very good for teams financially and successfully. A lot of times, you kind of want to try and win while your quarterback's on the rookie contract. Once you start to pay your quarterback and pay all your other good players, your team kind of starts to fall apart a little bit because you're running out of money to pay everybody else. So I could definitely see them talking themselves into keeping him for one more year, but I could also see them being too enticed by someone like Justin Fields to keep Darnold around, who has not met their expectations, but it's not completely his fault. I mean, Adam Gase is not a good head coach.
Yeah, he's really not. And this was proven after Ryan Tannehill went over to the Titans and just
Oh
you
yeah.
know started to play so well. So it just really goes to show that Adam Gase.
It's the Adam Gase effect. Whenever you leave Adam Gase, you just start being good at the game of football. That's just what happens. And then the Lions hired Dan Campbell. Do you know much? I don't really know much about Dan Campbell.
I know he's the assistant coach and then the Titans coach, former assistant coach and Titans coach for the Saints. Um, I mean, this is one of those moves where, like, I mean, I guess it's a good pickup for them. I don't know really what direction they were going to go into. I really think the Lions are one of those teams that is going to be in the rebuild for a while. for me. I don't really see them really doing too much. So I think Dan Campbell kind of knew that going into the position. I really thought that the Lions were going to go get Saleh because he was a Michigan native. He went to college also in Michigan. So I really thought that they were going to go get Saleh. But, I mean, getting Dan Campbell, excuse me, I guess it was a interesting pickup for the Lions, to say the least.